I want you to see that every book of the Bible has always been pointing to Jesus. Watch this. Genesis, Jesus is the seed of the woman and the creator and the promised redeemer. Exodus, he's the Passover lamb. Leviticus, he's the high priest and the lamb on the altar. Numbers, he's the cloud and the fire, the water and the bread in the desert. Deuteronomy, he's the prophet like Moses. Joshua, he's the commander of the Lord's army and the captain of our salvation. Judges, he's the judge and the lawgiver. Ruth, he's the kinsman redeemer. 1 Samuel, he's the prophet, the priest, and the king. 2 Samuel, he's the king of grace and love. 1 Kings, he's a ruler greater than Solomon. 2 Kings, he's the powerful prophet. 1 Chronicles, he's the son of David coming to rule. 2 Chronicles, he's the king who reigns eternally. Ezra, he's the priest proclaiming freedom. Nehemiah, he's the rebuilder of what has been broken. Esther, he's the protector of his people. Job, he's the living redeemer. Come on, somebody. The mediator between God and man. Psalms, he's the Lord our shepherd, the song in morning and night. Proverbs, he's the wisdom of God. Ecclesiastes, he's the meaning of life. Song of Solomon, he's the lover and the bridegroom, the author of love. Isaiah, he is the suffering servant. Jeremiah, the righteous one wrong. Lamentations, the weeping prophet. Ezekiel, he's the breath that gives life to the dry bones and the Son of Man. Daniel, he's the fourth man in the fire. He's the Son of Man coming in the clouds. Hosea, he's the faithful husband even when we're unfaithful. Joel, he's the one sending the Spirit to baptize his people with fire. Amos, he's the burden bearer and the restorer of justice. Obadiah, he's the judge of evildoers and mighty to save. Jonah, he is the forgiving God, the greatest missionary. Micah, he's the messenger who brings good news. Nahum, he's the avenger of the elect and stronghold in trouble. Habakkuk, he's the great evangelist crying for revival. Zephaniah, he's the restorer of the remnant, the warrior who saves. Haggai, he's the cleansing fountain and the signet ring. Zechariah, he's the humble king riding on a colt and the pierced son. Malachi, he's the son of righteousness bringing healing in his wings. Matthew, he's the Messiah who is king. Mark, he's the Messiah who's a servant. Luke, he's the Messiah who's the deliverer. John, he's the bread of life, the Messiah who is God in flesh. Acts, he is the ascended Lord, the Spirit who dwells in his people. Romans, he is the justifier, the righteousness of God. 1 Corinthians, he's the second Adam, the resurrection. 2 Corinthians, he's our down payment and the God of all comfort. Galatians, he's our liberty, the one who sets us free. Ephesians, he's the head and the unity of the church. Philippians, he's the joy of our lives. Colossians, he's the fullness of the Godhead, supreme over all. 1 Thessalonians, he's our comfort in the last days. 2 Thessalonians, he's our returning king. 1 Timothy, he's the mediator between God and man, the savior of the worst of all sinners. 2 Timothy, he's the leader of the leaders. He's the pastor of pastors. Titus, he's the blessed hope, the foundation of truth. Philemon, he's the friend, closer than a brother, our mediator. Hebrews, he is the blood that washes away our sin. He's our great high priest. James, he's the great physician. He's the power behind our faith. 1 Peter, he's the chief shepherd, our hope in suffering. 2 Peter, he's the one who guards us from false teaching. 1 John, the source of life. 2 John, God in the flesh. 3 John, source of truth. Jude, he's the foundation of our faith, the Savior who protects us from stumbling. Come on, somebody. Revelation, he's the King of Kings. He's the Lord of Lords. He's the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega, and he is himself the light of heaven. Listen, when you cut the Bible, it bleeds Jesus.